The rain fell. It was a relentless, cold assault on the city tonight, May 21st, 2025. Each drop was a tiny hammer beating the streets into submission. Empty. The avenues gleamed under the sickly orange glow of sputtering streetlights, reflecting distorted images of a world devoid of life. Neon signs bled their colors onto the wet asphalt, creating abstract paintings no one was there to see. Gutters overflowed with discarded dreams and dirty water, a miniature river of urban decay. The silence was a heavy blanket, broken only by the ceaseless drumming of the downpour. This was a city holding its breath, waiting for something or perhaps for nothing at all. Through this watery desolation a figure moved, a man. Soaked to the bone, his clothes clung to him like a second colder skin. Bruises, dark and ugly, were visible on his knuckles, a testament to some recent brutal ballet. His face, partially obscured by the shadow of his soaked hood, was a mask of grim endurance. He walked with a slight limp, each step a quiet declaration of defiance against the elements, against the weariness seeping into his very marrow. He didn't hurry, he simply moved, a solitary ghost haunting the abandoned stage of the night, a testament to sheer, unadulterated persistence. Inside him, a storm mirrored the one outside. Loneliness was a constant companion, a cold hand gripping his heart. It whispered insidious doubts in the quiet moments, magnified by the drumming rain. Yet beneath the surface of despair, something else smoldered. It wasn't hope, not exactly. Hope was a luxury he couldn't afford. It was a stubborn refusal to break, a primal instinct to keep fighting even when the opponent was invisible, intangible. This refusal was a tiny, flickering ember he guarded fiercely against the encroaching darkness, a spark of defiance in an otherwise bleak existence. The city itself felt like an extension of his internal landscape, cold, uncaring, vast and indifferent to his struggle. The towering buildings were like silent, judgmental giants, their darkened windows like empty eyes, yet he drew a strange kind of strength from it, from its very harshness. If he could endure this concrete jungle drowning in its own sorrow, then perhaps he could endure anything life threw his way. He was a part of its grit, its shadows, its unyielding nature. He belonged to the struggle, and the struggle belonged to him. He finally reached his destination. Not a home, not a haven, but a place that understood his language. The door, paint peeling and wood splintered, groaned open under his push. Inside, the air was thick. It smelled of old sweat, of rust, of damp concrete, and the faint metallic tang of dried blood. This was a gym, but not the gleaming, sterile kind advertised on billboards. This was a forgotten relic, a dim, cavernous space where shadows clung to the corners like cobwebs. The only light came from a few bare bulbs hanging precariously, casting long, dancing shadows that made the equipment look even more menacing. The place was a symphony of decay and determination. Cracked mirrors reflected a distorted version of reality, showing a ghost of a man preparing for battle. Weights lay scattered like ancient stones, their iron surfaces bearing the marks of countless desperate hands. The punching bags, patched and repatched, hung heavy and still, silent witnesses to endless rounds of punishment. Every piece of equipment told a story of strain, of sweat, of pain endured in solitude. This was not a place for the faint of heart, it was a crucible, a place where weakness was either beaten out or consumed whole. He was alone, always alone in this sanctuary of iron and echoes. The silence here was different from the silence of the streets. It was a charged silence, pregnant with the ghosts of past efforts. The only sounds were his own, the drip of water from his soaked clothes forming a puddle on the grimy floor, the ragged intake of his breath, the rhythmic creak of a loose floorboard under his weight. This solitude wasn't just an absence of others, it was a presence, a force that stripped away all pretense, leaving only the raw core of his being. He began his ritual. Slowly, methodically, he unwound the worn hand wraps from a rusty locker. The fabric was stiff, stained with old sweat and probably a little blood. He wrapped his bruised knuckles with practiced precision, each turn a small act of preparation, a quiet commitment to the pain that was to come. His movements were deliberate, almost reverent. This was more than just a workout, it was a ceremony, a way to channel the turmoil within into something tangible, something he could fight, something he could, perhaps, eventually overcome. The fight started here, in the silence, before the first punch was even thrown. He faced the heavy bag. It hung there, a stoic, unyielding opponent. His first punch was a dull thud, the sound swallowed by the vast emptiness of the gym, then another, and another. Each impact sent a jarring shockwave up his arm, rattling his tired bones. His soaked clothes hampered his movements, adding an extra layer of resistance, an extra challenge. But he pushed through it, his breath hissing through clenched teeth. Sweat, new and clean, began to mingle with the cold rainwater still clinging to his skin, a baptism of his own making. The rhythm began to build. Jab, cross, hook. The bag swayed, protesting with each blow. His knuckles, already tender, screamed in protest, but he ignored them. This pain was familiar, almost a friend. It told him he was alive, that he was still fighting. He focused on the impact, on the satisfying thud, on the slight give of the bag. He poured all his frustration, all his loneliness, all his pent-up rage into each strike. His muscles burned, his lungs ached, but the rhythm was a mantra, a brutal meditation that drowned out the noise in his head. From the bag, he moved to the weights, cold iron, unforgiving. He gripped the barbell, the knurling biting into his calloused palms. The lift was a primal grunt, a raw explosion of effort. His muscles screamed, veins standing out like ropes on his arms and neck. Each repetition was a battle against gravity, against his own fatigue. He could feel the micro tears in his muscle fibers, the body breaking down so it could rebuild stronger. This was the alchemy of pain, turning suffering into strength, one agonizing rep at a time. The environment was as raw as his effort. Dust motes danced in the dim light, disturbed by his exertions. The metallic clang of weights hitting the floor echoed like gunshots in the otherwise silent space. Sweat stung his eyes, blurring his vision. He tasted blood in his mouth, a coppery tang from a split lip he hadn't even noticed. There was no glamour here, no audience, only the gritty reality of hard work, of pushing the body to its absolute limit and then a little further. This was the ugly, unvarnished truth of his struggle. An internal war raged within him, as fierce as any physical contest. One voice, a siren song of exhaustion, whispered for him to stop, to rest, to give in. It promised the sweet relief of surrender. But another voice, deeper, raspier, born from the crucible of countless nights like this, roared back. It spoke of resilience, of the refusal to be broken. This internal battle was his constant companion, a shadow opponent he wrestled with every single day. The gym was merely the arena where this unseen fight was made manifest. The physical toll was immense. His body was a symphony of aches. Every muscle fiber screamed in protest. His lungs burned with each ragged breath. His vision tunneled slightly at the edges from the sheer exertion. Fatigue was a heavy cloak, threatening to drag him down into a heap on the grimy floor. Yet, he continued, one more punch, one more lift, one more second of defiance. This relentless pursuit was not born of a desire for victory in a traditional sense, but from a desperate need to simply endure, to keep moving forward when every instinct screamed for retreat. This wasn't about preparing for a specific fight against another person. There was no upcoming match, no cheering crowd, no prize money waiting. The opponent was far more insidious, far more personal. It was the darkness that threatened to consume him, the despair that gnawed at his soul, the crushing weight of his own isolation. He fought to prove to himself, and only to himself, that he was stronger than the shadows. Every drop of sweat, every aching muscle, was a small victory in this deeply personal war, a testament to his unyielding spirit. He finally lowered the weights, his body trembling with exhaustion. He stood there gasping for air, the dim light casting long shadows from his battered form. The silence of the gym returned, now filled with the echo of his labor. A voice his own, yet somehow separate, resonated in the quiet recesses of his mind, a stark and unyielding truth. No one's coming to save you. The words were cold, hard, undeniable. It's all on you. A pause, then the final command, the only path forward. Get up, fight.